Hi, this is Rick. I'm here in my studio, and you're visiting my YouTube channel, Rick Surowicz Watercolor. Once again this year, I decided to put together a series of holiday card videos that you can share with your friends and family. I post all the content on the project page of my website. If you go there, you'll find the links for the videos, links for the templates that I use for the cards, and reference photos of the cards themselves. And they're all 5 by 7 inches, and you can put those on a blank greeting card stock or just on regular watercolor paper, whatever you choose. And I hope you enjoy watching this series and enjoy painting them and sharing with your friends and family. Hi, this is Rick here in the studio, and this is the holiday card I'll be working on. This is the template for the holiday card. You'll find it on the project page of my website, and you can find the link to that project page in the description of the video. But just very simple landscape that I have here, and I'm going to use some masking fluid on this. I want this to be a snowy day, and I want to show some snow sticking on these trees. So I'm going to take this fine line masking fluid bottle. If you've seen some of my other holiday videos, you'll see me using this in a lot of them, and also the splatter technique I'll be using. I do a lot of that to make a snowy day and keep it a transparent watercolor. So all I'm going to do, just a few branches, a couple shapes like that, show some snow hanging on some of the branches, and that's probably all I need to do right there. And I want to cap it right away to keep it from getting clogged. Next, I'm going to take a toothbrush, just an inexpensive toothbrush, and my masking fluid. I'll take a little bit in the jar and I'll rub some of that excess off so it's not too heavy. And I'm going to splatter this over here, and I'll tap it on my hand. This makes a bigger drop than the splatter by pulling. I mean, it's still a splatter, but pulling the bristles will make a finer texture, I find. And when I hit it on my hand, it makes a bigger droplet. So I use both, create a variety. I want to spray this around. I want this to feel like a wintry, snowy day. So just some splatter in that. And that's really all I'm going to do. I'm going to let that air dry, and then I'll begin to paint. I'm back in the studio, and the masking fluid has dried. So now I'm going to begin my painting. I'm going to start with the back, the distant sky, and some of the trees that are in the distance there. And I'm going to paint this with, I'm going to start with a little royal blue and add some water to that. I don't want it to be too dark. So a little bit of water using a big wash brush. And I'm just going to go across the sky with a couple marks. And I'm actually going to already go to water. Add a little more water to that. So just pure water. And I think I want a little more color at the top. So I'm going to add some more pigment. So this is still plenty wet. And I'm working at an angle. I always work at about a 20-degree angle or so. Vary it sometimes, but let gravity do some of the work. So now that wash is gradating down, and that's my sky. Now I've got this distant tree line here. So I'm gonna continue with this royal blue that I have. I'm gonna add a little raw umber into this mixture. Keep some a little grayer, some with a little bit more of a raw umber, a warmer tone to it. So here's a little more of the raw umber, and I'm just gonna drop that in there. So this is going to be my distant tree line, and because the blue wash is wet, you know, it's going to merge with a soft edge to that. And I got quite a bit of water in there. I'm going to pick up some of that water with my brush, and I'm going to come in with maybe a little raw sienna, just to add a little bit of color. And then maybe some ultramarine blue. Give me a cooler note in this. So that's my distant tree line. And then here close, I have some trees, I'm going to have some trees that are closer. I'll take raw sienna, burnt sienna, or a little burnt orange, whichever. And now I'm going to use this warmer color here, closer, more in the middle ground. Take a little of this burnt orange. And I'm going to take some of the cooler also and paint in just a piece of land sticking out here in the foreground. So this is a field. It has some trees in it, has some crops that are planted, and just a big stretch. Came down a little lower than I wanted, but we'll just go ahead and bring that across. And I think I'll add a little more value to that. Let's try to get a little bit of warm, a little bit of cool. More of my mixture for this. And that's probably good enough. And remember now I have some masking fluid that I've put in there that will create some texture and create kind of a snowy effect. And so those are my trees that are close, and I'm going to paint some actual tree trunks and branches over top of that. But right now, I'm going to dry this and then do some of that other work. Before I do though, actually, I'm going to go ahead, this is burnt orange, but there's some crops out here. I'm just going to drag my brush a little bit, going at an angle here. So it kind of shows the crops with some snow, kind of a snowy field that's been harvested. It's probably just enough information what I have right there. And now I'm gonna dry it. I'm gonna come and put some of these trees, and I'll put in some of the snowy shadows. Okay, now I'm going to, I'll just take a number 6 round brush here, mix up a little darker mixture using the same colors. Some ultramarine blue, some raw umber, a little burnt sienna. And so again, warm and cool. I have a little bit more of the blue in this mixture, so it's cooler. And this will make a, those colors can make a nice neutral. So, I've put some highlights here where I put the masking fluid so it'll show some snow kind of on a tree trunk. So I'm gonna put this tree trunk in here, maybe a little wider. So this shape's going to get broken up a little bit by some of the masking I have on there, but I also like to create some texture, so I might just hit that with my hand or blot it with a tissue, create some variation in the brush stroke I put down. And let's see, we got one here. Okay, now I'm going to take a rigger brush. This is actually a number 8 rigger brush, but it has a very fine point. So I can get a lot of different marks with this. That's a little too big. Just making some branches here, varying the width of them. Some of them are pretty thin. I'll stretch these out a little bit just to break up this space. And I put in 3 kind of larger trees, but I'm also going to have some saplings, some briar bushes, some grassy shapes, all kinds of little ground cover here. Create some overlap as I put these marks in. And go back to number 6 brush here, make a few marks on the ground cover just to put some shapes in. Doesn't take much. Keep it simple. I could get much more involved with a ground cover, but I'm really not going to do too much. So that's probably enough to suggest a ground cover, and I might take just a little bit of burnt orange. See if I can get this in here to suggest, you know, some briar bushes or some bushes or something that's a little, you know, below the trees but above the little grassy areas. So I'm going to dry that again. Then I'm going to come in with some violet, some blue violet, maybe a little red violet, probably mostly blue violet. Put some shadows in. Okay, so this is all dry, and I've cleaned the one side of my palette, and I'm going to take a 1/2-inch flat brush, and I'll take some ultramarine blue, a little alizarin crimson, a little more blue. I want to gray that down a little, so I'm going to take, let's see, we'll use some raw sienna. And a little more blue. All right, so kind of a grayed down blue violet. I'm going to take a little bit of the moisture off there, not a lot, on the tissue, and I'm going to drag the side of that brush, the belly, and use the tip. Get a little more paint on that actually. So just dragging it on the belly with kind of a damp loading will create some texture, but I also have the masking fluid that I've splattered, which is creating some texture on this. So I want the suggestion of just some shadows on the snow. I'll paint this kind of a flat tone here, a little more texture out there. And then I'm going to take a few touches and suggest, you know, some shadows in this field with some snow out there. And I'm not going to do much more. I might actually take just a light wash, kind of a cool tone, and put just a little bit more definition on this distant tree lines. I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to soften those edges with some water just to show that a little bit, just a touch more pronounced. And now I'm going to take some royal blue, pretty dark color, mix it with some of this burnt sienna, and I'm gonna come over this with a little bit of a darker value on the tree in a few spots. And then we use my rigger brush with the same dark value just to get a couple shapes showing a little bit more. Some of this texture, some of these patterns and saplings, and a few branches. Kind of, once it dried, it was a little lighter than what I want overall. So a few darker shapes in there. This one to be pronounced. You want to have a few curved elements to contrast some of the vertical. And that's probably about enough there. So I'm going to dry that. Then I'm going to take off this masking fluid. I'm actually going to put just a couple dots out here just to help balance that value. All right, so let me dry it. That's dry. Now let's take off the masking fluid. I'll give you my kind of snowy day. And then once I take that off, if there's any marks I don't particularly care for, if they're too big or drops or something, I might, I'll come in and I'll do a little something just to reshape a particular mark. And then I want to overlap a few of those so that there's going to be some darker shapes that are going to overlap some of the lighter shapes, just a few. There's not too much there. All right, and that ought to about do it. So just a winter scene of a field with some trees. Hope you enjoy that and have fun painting.